Welcome to another edition of MoxieTalk, where we give you an intimate look into the courage, character, and defining moments of today's most inspiring individuals. I'm Kirt Jacobs, host of MoxieTalk, where previous guests have included leaders from the world of politics, business, culinary, sports, entertainment, art, law, community activism, and philanthropy. Today, our 386th guest in our series, we welcome Cheryl Silich. She's originally from Hobart, Indiana, and Cheryl was executive producer, writer, and host of her longtime running, nationally awarded winning fitness TV show, The Body Perfect by Cheryl. Now, some of you even helped cheer her on to become a champion on Hollywood's first reality TV show, American Gladiators. Or maybe you have heard of her extraordinary passion for collecting Wizard of Oz memorabilia. Ever since Cheryl's mother read The Wizard of Oz to her as a child, she shared her mother's passion for all things Oz, quote unquote. Her collection of, listen to this, of over 3,500 Oz items, perhaps the world's largest, was the premier exhibit at the Judy Garland Museum for 5 years. But when her father taught her how to stand on her head, Cheryl began to see the world differently. So it comes as little surprise that this media personality and national fitness expert set out to address the USA's adolescent obesity epidemic as executive producer, creator, and star of the 13-time national award-winning children's fitness film program, Adventures in Oz with Cheryl, combining her creative abilities, perseverance, and faith with her love for kids, exercise, and of course, all things Oz. Today, Cheryl captures audiences' hearts and minds as she magically transports them on her eclectic entrepreneurial and spiritual journey from her backyard in Hobart to Hollywood to the Home Shopping Network and more. Some of the ways Cheryl has inspired and served her communities are as a college professor at the University of Indianapolis, radio show host of Community Link, an inspirational speaker, and spiritual director. Folks that know her endearingly refer to her as the bodybuilder with a brain, a heart, and courage. Cheryl, after a half-decade of delays due to open heart surgery and a global pandemic, we are finally together as you are one remarkably busy lady. Welcome to MoxieTalk with Kirt Jacobs. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you. I believe all things happen on God's timing. So, thank you for this opportunity.
That's right. We've got a lot of ground to cover. You're a very eclectic human being and guest. What drives you to excel in all these areas of expertise, such as bodybuilding, your collection of Oz, your radio Christian show?
Kirt, one of the profound days in my Christian walk was at Mass one day. I didn't grow up having access to reading the Bible for myself, but one day there was Luke 12:48.
Okay.
And the priest said, "To whom much is given, much shall be required." And I just feel like God has given me so many talents and so many gifts and so many passions and so many enthusiasms in life. And it's a real responsibility and an honor to walk through life for Him using them. I'll tell you a cute story. When I was a kid, doing sleepovers at the McDevitt house, they had like 8 kids and we had 6. And the woman says to me, and the next morning, her mom says, "Cheryl, do you want to take a shower before you go back home? You're welcome to." I said, "Well, sure, Mrs. McDevitt, but I need to have a responsibility. Do you have a responsibility for me?" And she's like, yeah, I'm sure the thought bubbles were all over the room, right?
Right.
Well, when we were kids, we all had our own little bathrobe that I embroidered our names on, and it was our responsibility to take them downstairs to the one shower for 6 kids and hang them on the line so we had a dry towel the next morning.
Wow.
And so it was always like, "Sherry, don't forget your responsibility. Pick up your responsibility. Do you take your responsibility downstairs like I told you to?" So I thought my robe was called a responsibility. But I feel like life is just, we should be responsible with the life God gave us. And I don't want to turn at heaven one day and meet God and have any of my talents or gifts buried.
That is a very amazing answer to that pretty simple question. People, when they say excel, it's, they're driven or what have you, but that's a pretty remarkable answer. I like that. Whom do you credit most influential in your life, Cheryl? And it could be more than one, personal or professional.
I'm going to do this real fast. Mom and Dad, 2 incredible people, beyond blessed. If I even had one I got both.
Yeah.
Amazing. Mom left too soon, 26 years ago.
Sorry.
Dad, we talked about that, your father. My dad, 11. My sisters, my brothers, they've always supported me. My coaches, my teachers, my professors, my
Right.
first agent, Milt Thompson, my sponsors of my TV show, my sponsors of my radio show, my investors in my children's film, my husband, who makes me want to be a better Christian every day.
Oh, wow.
But all these people, you lump them all together. Not one holds a candle to Christ, because I live for God. I try to live intentional. I don't do it well. I
Right.
try. I screw up all the time, but I try to live on point. I try to keep him with me all day long. The thoughts I have, the things I say, the decisions I make, he's the most important person in my life.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And that's a testament, compliment to us, because we worked for years to get you here, and now you're here. We never gave up, and a lot of things got in the way. And
God's
so
timing.
I appreciate that. Thank you. What was the most defining moment of your life?
Wow.
And it could be more than one, personal or professional.
Yeah, if we had a week, we could tell them.
Right.
But I'll write a few books and do that. One of the most, I'll just do a couple quick. My
Sure.
mom dying 26 years ago. We'd just become friends. I was only 33. She went to Gladiators with me. I thought she'd live forever to watch the reruns, right?
Right.
Not to be. My sister dying shortly after. My dad dying. 3 different cancers: lymphoma, ovarian, bile duct. Then my open heart surgery, right? I mean, all those things are life-changing, but if I had to really distill it to one that really changed my life, those things are just going to happen. Our parents are going to die.
Yeah,
Our siblings are going to die.
unfortunately.
That's
I know the
life,
feeling, and a lot of people
right?
watching this do. Yeah.
That's life. But one of the most profound things is I was engaged to an F-18 pilot. My grandson wants to be an astronaut. He's in the studio with us today, Sincere, so he can relate. And one day, the man said to me, "Cheryl, I have to break off our engagement, because when you wake up in the morning, you just don't know what you can't do. And that scares me. I want a simple life."
Oh.
And I was like, well, I guess I don't. I want everything life can give and more, and I want to give more than I ever take from life. And so I was in the fetal position for 6 months. And then God gave me Don Stafford. And my husband, and now you got a Catholic, heels in the ground, hardcore, most likely to be in church every Sunday.
Right.
And holidays.
Right.
And holy days, right? All of it. Stations of the Cross, Lent, the whole thing, all in. Marry a Pentecostal. My priest said chances of us surviving 3%.
That's a whole other TV show.
Whole nother TV show, but because God gave me a man who loved him first
Right.
and put me in front of himself, wow. We have been on a spiritual journey, my friend,
So
and it has
together
been
ever
amazing.
since.
23 years.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. What do you consider to be your biggest professional triumph? And again, it can be more than one. It could be personal as well.
After open heart surgery, it was just walking to the mailbox with my grandsons on either side. But everybody's going to point to American Gladiators, right?
Sure, sure.
I mean, I go from little small town Hobart, Indiana of 18,000 back then, middle child, imagine that,
Yeah.
iron worker, daughter, stay-at-home mom, very humble, beautiful beginnings. A lot like Dorothy in Kansas, but I learned how to dream big. So I made it to Hollywood, 30,000 people tried out, and I was one of 10 chosen, and cool, right? I mean, like, who would have thought?
Well, and the thing that's fascinating, there'll be some younger people watching this. I mean, when you got into, I'll just call it female bodybuilding, I mean, it was, I don't want to say taboo, but maybe that is the word. It was not culturally normal or accepted. We're talking 40-something years ago, roughly.
It was not vogue at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you what used to happen, Kurt.
Okay, go ahead.
People would laugh at me. Women would point at me. They would say cruel things to me in earshot on purpose on the street.
Wow.
Husbands and men would look at me,
Sure, of
stare
course,
at me,
sure.
gawk at me, and that would make them even more mad.
Right.
So the men approached me. The women shunned me.
Right.
Okay. But I've been a part of the whole evolution. I hung in
Sure.
there. And 40 years later, now the men are like, your arms are bigger than mine.
Right,
so
right.
they kind of stand back and go, oh my gosh, she's amazing. But they're more reserved. And the women are like, okay, what do I do after I had a baby? What do I do to firm up my glutes? I know you just pulled a glute. So it's like,
Right,
you got,
yeah.
now you learn
Too much
these things.
information, but yeah.
Right?
Right.
What do I do to firm up my arms? What do I do to have stronger shoulders? What do I do to have a better core? So it's come full circle. And I really thank Venus and Serena for that. When they hit the scene, these big, beautiful bombshell of women, twins, incredible talent.
Venus
but also
and Serena
love Lord.
Williams, the tennis stars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They really made it cool. So thank you.
So how many, just roughly, back when you started, how many female bodybuilders were at your level, so to speak? Are we talking a handful? Are we talking how many roughly that you knew of that you were trying to attain to be, or was there anyone to even look to?
Tanya Knight,
Okay.
Rachel McLeish.
There
You
you
might
see.
remember those names. Those
Somewhat.
were the people that would be more in the fitness category today.
Okay.
Probably, I know I never was really, quote, a bodybuilder. I just am genetically so blessed. I like to tease that when God passed out steroids when I was born, like he gave me more hormones than I needed so that I
Right.
could do all this naturally, because it's not too common to be able to build this level of physique without doing, illegal drugs.
Sure.
But he gave me a little more testosterone than the average person, but it's worked well in business too.
Yeah.
So, they were there, but once I found out that the top 5% of the industry only made money, I went into education and I started the Body Perfect television show. And I'm just naturally a teacher and an encourager, because I have a little sister 5 years younger than me, Kathy Silich Novak. And I taught her everything I learned, so if I learned how to stand on my head, I had to teach her. And so once I saw television as a way to take my love for exercise, but also share it and coach it and encourage it, that was way more than getting on stage and flexing in a bikini. I mean, that was too hollow for me, too shallow.
Your energy level, I just love it. I mean, it's just with every answer, it's unbelievable. So this next one, I'm curious your answer to. What does Cheryl Ann Silich consider to be her biggest life lesson ever learned?
Life's not fair.
Amen.
It's your dad's birthday today. Life's not fair. Happy birthday, Dad in heaven. Mine too. Maybe they're looking down at us.
It might be.
Right?
They're probably in the room. That's maybe how it
they
works.
are. But here's the thing. Let's talk about that. When I was in Hollywood, there was an event called Assault, okay, where you ran from one weapon station to the next, okay? You shot like a bow and arrow, and then you had this thing called the rocket launcher where you got behind this big mountain and you couldn't even see the sky. I'm like this, trying to aim a weapon at a bullseye, right? There's a big bullseye, and there's a gladiator up there trying to hit you with tennis balls coming at you at 200 miles an hour.
Oh, that's fun.
Leave bruises about this big on your body, okay? Well, I got to like the third one, I got to the fourth one. I not only got the target, I got the bullseye, Kirt. So now the camera, like your beautiful camera crew here who's helped me look beautiful and feel fun today, got me all jacked up. I am running, he's cueing me. They're going, now go here, wave to your mom, cut past here and you're done. Oh man, 10 points, maximum points. I mean, you never got those because the scopes on our weapons were completely off. So if I'm trying to aim at you, it's going to hit over here.
Oh, wow.
The cameraman grabs me by the arm. He catches me on my victory lap for the audience and the camera. And he says, Cheryl, he said, I don't know how to tell you this, but we didn't get that shot.
Oh, no.
Now, you have how many cameras here, Kirt?
Yeah, a few.
Yeah. More than one.
Yeah.
And this is Hollywood. This is a 5-camera, multi-million-dollar production.
Right.
MGM Studios. Really?
Yeah.
You didn't get the shot. No, what really happened was they got the shot. They took the points away because they could, because I was too far ahead. I mean, what happens when your team is too far ahead? You might go to the fridge and get a snack, right?
Right.
So that's the point.
Yeah.
So I did the event again. They said, here, you want a bottle of water? Have a seat, Cheryl. Whenever you're ready, just do it again, just like that.
Of course.
Got shot in the leg. What do? Life's not fair, but here's the thing. When my children's film won the Hollywood Film Advisory Board Award of Excellence, I'm proud to say that my team, we earned 13 national awards on this children's remake of The Wizard of Oz, teaching kids to Ozercise. I won the Hollywood Film Advisory Board Award same year Shrek and Princess Diaries won it.
Really?
I didn't go to the ceremony to accept my award. Probably a real missed opportunity because of the people in the room. Because my sister was living with me dying of ovarian cancer. My big sis, who one day on the playground when we were swinging on a swing set says, Cher, how old do you think really old is? And I said, 40. Because we probably just had a 40th birthday party in the backyard.
Yeah.
And she goes, all right then, I'm going to die when I'm 40.
Oh.
She was 40 years old when she died of ovarian cancer.
Sorry.
Hollywood took my points away. Cancer took my sister's life away. That's real, real unfair. So life's unfair.
Yeah. But
with faith and hope.
Resilience.
Perseverance.
Moxie. That's why we're here.
Oh,
That's why we're here.
Okay.
That's why we're here.
Sorry for the long answer.
No. What do you consider to be the biggest risk you have ever taken, and has it paid off?
You know, lots of them, but I'm going to go. I was trying to think of one of my earliest risks.
Sure.
Okay. My best friend across the street, Karen Kosenek, only had one brother. Mind you, I had 3 and 2 sisters. You know, a year and a half and 2 apart, right?
Right.
So like we've got our own wrestling team every Friday night. But anyway, she had her own trapeze. We were going to run away and join the circus. She was going to join the Hobart YMCA family swim team. Now, it required that she rode her bike to the Y a mile, swam practice, and rode home. Now, she was a whole year older than me. She was 11, and I was like 10. And I knew my mom would never let me do something that an 11-year-old, a whole year older than me, could do, right? But I went into the kitchen where my mom always was. So you always talked to her back while she was prepping food or cleaning dishes or doing laundry downstairs. And I said, I just blurted it out that you got nothing to lose. I said, Mom, Karen's going to join the swim team. She's going to ride her bike there, and we're going to swim for 2 hours and then ride home. Can I do it this summer? And she goes, yeah, I think so. Kirt, changed my life.
Yeah.
All because I got last place in my first meet. I got out of the pool that summer, and my coach, Gail, she put her big arm around me. I was so excited. I said, how did I do, Coach? And she's like, well, you got last. I'm like, I thought I would. I didn't know. You know, I got maybe third, you know, because I'm a kid. And she said, you got last place. She said, but you got real potential. Keep practicing, kid. Keep practicing. I've never forgotten that lesson.
Keep practicing.
And I kept practicing.
I love that.
On many things in life. I'm a voracious learner. I love to learn.
What do you consider to be your biggest mistake in your human journey thus far? It could be more than one, personal and professional. Mistakes.
Just since I got up this morning? Or?
Well, you know, ones that, how would I couch it? Ones that have changed the trajectory of maybe how your mindset and view of the world is. How about that?
Mistakes or missed opportunities, they're kind of the same.
I would say so.
Like for example, I got a full ride swim scholarship, mind you, from my little small town at West Point Military Academy when it was like the second year women were allowed to go. And this girl ain't wearing Navy unless it's lace, okay? So I am not in, right?
Right.
But I sometimes wonder, wow, look what I passed up because you know, I didn't have any idea of what that could have been. Until I had Sarah Petitia, who wrote a book called West Point Women on my radio show, and I saw what she went through as an early adapter to the new system, and I would have been miserable. So I sometimes wonder, you know, what if? But I think, I mean, some of the mistakes, I guess, if I had to round it out in general, it would be not playing it safe, taking too many risks. Trying to change the world every day, change someone's life, be a light everywhere you go, and take some big gambles, and not all of them have paid off. I know one coming to, when I went to this project right here, Adventures in Oz, we went to VHS, right? This is a good example. Right as it was switching to DVD.
Of course.
So we were, you know, DVD wasn't quite taking off. VHS is still going to be around for years, but I should have inventoried both half and half, but I kind of got stuck with a lot of VHS.
Oh, I see.
That's costly inventory back then.
Absolutely.
So that's a business mistake. But in general, I think maybe just trying too hard. Trying too hard.
Trying too hard.
In my own strength until I realized God can do a whole lot more in a millisecond than I can do in 10 years.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. We haven't gotten to that yet. What do you consider to be the best piece of advice ever given to you, Cheryl? And again, it could be more than one, personal or professional, in any of these walks of life you've been in, maybe.
Since my dad lived until he was 81, my mom died at 61, I always hear my dad's voice when I think of this. He'd always say, keep the faith, Cher. Just keep the faith. Never forget the man upstairs. I can't imagine a parent giving any better advice to a child.
I'm really excited about your answer to this question because I've been wanting to ask it for 4.5 years, back to that.
You want to arm wrestle? Is that the question?
Well, you can't see mine. In my mind, I've already won. So.
Of course.
In my mind, it's telepathic, I'm like Yoda or whatever. Anyway, when was the aha moment when you realized I can be a female bodybuilder? Was it an evolution? Was there a moment? Was it somebody talking you into it? Was it a family member? Was there something that happened that had nothing to do with bodybuilding and you were like, I can do this?
Quick early answer to that is I went to lunch one day with Milt Thompson, an African-American sports agent in Indianapolis.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, Cheryl, I think you need to do a TV show. Let's call it The Body Perfect because you're amazing. And I remembered walking away from him. I thought we were like just having a professional business. And I remember specifically, this is when you had to put your key into the car and turn it.
Right.
You couldn't do it from a little beep. I went like, did that just happen?
Mm-hmm.
But by the next morning, I knew who to call for artwork. I knew who to call for clothing. I knew who to call for guests and sponsorship. Fast forward many years later when I was taking my fitness education and encouragement skills to try to address the obesity epidemic that was hitting America for our children, I was going to raise some money for Adventures When I Was with Cheryl, 13-score musical, talking Lizard of Oz, who teaches you to eat your apples, peaches, bananas, and pears. Lizards say no to chocolate eclairs.
You've got that down. I can't do that.
I got that down, right? But we needed money. And so now I'm in the venture capital business.
Mm-hmm.
Again, another big risk, right? Another big leap of faith. I met with a man who was called an angel investor. And I left him a voice message, and he called me back. I said, I really need an angel right now. And he said, Cheryl, that's why I called you back. You actually called me an angel. I want to hear your story. Well, my mom was dying of cancer. We needed more money to get the project to the next step. As you know, always takes more and costs more and, takes more time than you ever think. So I met with this man, gave him my plan, asked him for $300,000, and he said, very good. He said, Cheryl, go back home, rework your numbers. You're going to need $1 million. Make another appointment, come back and see me, and ask me for $1 million.
How long did that take?
Well, $3 million later. Okay, but here's the thing, 2 things. I woke up in the morning, I would get in the shower, and I would go, I don't even know what I said. I might have been swearing back then. I try to get that out of my language now, but holy crap! Like,
right.
What world am I living in? What am I doing now? Like I am way in over my head. And so, you know what? I have never strung that sentence together in the human language. I need $1 million to help kids be fit and healthy, right? Like my parents taught me. And so you know what I did? I stood in front of the mirror. And I practiced saying that to myself, because if I couldn't believe it, how could I go back there and expect him to believe it?
Amen. Yep.
Big moment. Big responsibility. Thank you, God.
What is it like to be Cheryl and Silich?
A little awesome, can I say? Just a little awesome.
I mean, you're just like radiating, man. You're just flying at me over here. We're only a couple feet away from each other. That's fine.
I'm like just a little awesome.
Yeah.
It's a fun job.
Yeah.
But it's a job sometimes.
Sure.
A lot of people who need me. I listen to my voicemail sometimes, and it'll say, Cheryl, I need you to call me as soon as you possibly can. I got to talk to you about something, but I don't want anyone to know, and I need prayer. And I know you're going to call me back. And that can be on a day when you're scraping from your own bourbon barrel. You don't have a lot for yourself, Like when I have open heart surgery and I was on oxygen for a year, dragging that around and trying to get my oxygen back and my thinking back and my memory back and the heaviness off my chest, So sometimes it's a burden, but I embrace it because God is calling me to a higher purpose. And I'm saying, let's go, God. You didn't say it was going to be easy, but I can't do it without you.
I'm going to bring up somewhat questions I've given you in advance, but also organic, and it impacts me as well. So I'm curious. We have a certain camaraderie in how we view the world. I'll leave it at that. We don't have really any history together at all. But what do you feel people get wrong about you, Cheryl? In other words, do you ever feel misunderstood? And I'm going to use the N word, and not everybody get nervous in the studio or anyone at home. But at times when people are very visible, they get called a narcissist. They get called, and people don't take the time to understand them or get to know them. And I was just curious, have you ever had to deal with that? How have you overcome that? That might not be the right word, because you seem so unstoppable, and you came along at a time where you were really blazing a trail, in my opinion. That's why I've fought so hard for years to get you on the program. So have you ever felt misunderstood? That's a simpler way to put the
I
question.
had a psychologist call me that one time.
See?
Now, a lot of it's because I love fashion, I love
Right.
color. People say, Cheryl, when you enter a room, the whole atmosphere changes.
Mm-hmm.
And you haven't even said anything. Now, not everybody can handle that.
Right.
Especially my own family.
Mm-hmm.
But Jesus wasn't even loved accepted in his own backyard.
point.
And so I had to fiercely decide to be myself. But because people who know me know that I will give you anything, do anything for you, everything I've learned, I will teach you. I will give you the cheat sheets, because chances are most people aren't going to do it anyway, because it takes so much work.
You're absolutely right.
Right? So I have nothing to hide.
Mm-hmm.
I will share every secret, that will help you be your best.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't hold anybody to my standards,
Right.
nobody. And I have high standards.
Right.
But nobody gets held to my standards, because that would be judging, and that would be unfair.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I tell you, you want to know what I really get judged for?
The guns.
You better say it, sun's out, guns
Guns
out.
out.
I mean, come on, I've had
I'd
these
give
things.
anything to look like that for 20 minutes.
Well, I'll tell you what, we can do a photo op later. You hold your
Okay.
hands back like that.
Okay.
I'll sneak behind you and pop these babies out.
We'll
and,
do it.
We're doing it,
I'm
right?
not letting you get out of that one.
But anyway, here's the thing. I've not been understood, because I am all natural.
Right.
Just incredibly genetically blessed. And there's not a lazy, I wish I had and then we have funny bones, but I don't think I have a lazy bone in my
Sure.
body. But something a little more personal, where I have had a hard time is, and you don't know this, but I have a speech impediment. And my name's really hard for me to say, you to say, everyone to say. Cheryl Ann Silich. And I never
Silich.
Silich. I never said Cheryl Ann Silich. I used to say Cheryl Silich. And when I was in college, my first week in college, right? I'm trying to be friends with everybody.
Right,
To
exactly.
make one new friend, right?
Right.
So this good-looking man like you comes up, co-ed, standing on the corner. We get there right about the same time. I'm thinking, I'm going to make my first friend. So I extend my hand and my smile, and I say, I'm Cheryl Silich. And he says, I know who you are.
Oh.
And I'm like, wow, this is like amazing. Like 6,000 people, and somebody already knows little old me from Hobart, Indiana. He says, I know who you are. You're the girl with the lisp.
Oh. Wow.
You know what, Kirt? When I was in grade school, my parents sent me in my Catholic uniform on my recess hour. I walked over to the public middle school for speech therapy. After coming home for a week crying, my parents said, you don't have to go anymore. My dad had one. I didn't know. It's how you talk. Disney characters have them. I didn't know I was being judged so harshly. But that day in college, I went back to my dorm room, and boy, did I cry. And then boy, did I get mad. And then I figured out when you get mad, you can take action and take that anger and put it into action. I've done that many times through my life. And you put it into something powerful. I told my guidance counselor what had happened. She said, why don't you walk on over to the speech therapy department? Valparaiso actually offers this as a degree program. And you know what? I signed up. I was the next human guinea pig in the Valparaiso University Speech Therapy Lab, and I practiced to say my name, and I added my middle name in. My mom used to call me Cheryl Ann when I was in trouble,
Right, yeah.
And then I'm Cheryl when everything's good, and then I'm Sherry to some, and then I'm Cher to a very few that real intimate people call me Sherry. This gets shorter, right?
Right.
But I had to use the Ann. When I say Cheryl Ann Silich, it gives my tongue enough time to get to the right place to say Silich. Because would you believe this? I know you're not going to believe this, but I lack muscles in my tongue, so I can't say it never goes away. And then you know my husband, Don. You guys are both in real estate.
Yeah.
Don says to me, well, honey, are you going to change your name when we get married? Of course, I've been on TV all these years. I'm like, his last name is Stafford. I'm like, I'm not going to be Cheryl Silich Stafford. Hello, and no.
Sorry.
But here's the thing. I said, I got a great idea. If you want to be Don Brown, I am all in. Let's all in.
Let's do that. Let's change your last name.
So I'm
right.
still Cheryl Ann Silich.
I got you. So Cheryl, we've covered a lot of ground already. We're about halfway there, but this is the really exciting, fun part for myself and for those watching the Moxie Talk, and also I hope for you as the guest. We're going to kind of go down memory lane.
All right.
So you've sent us a bunch of pictures in advance, and I've got them here, and we're going to kind of go fairly quickly on these. What is this going on here? What's this first one?
Wow, that was a thrilling moment. That was Adventures in Oz with Cheryl received 5 out of 5 possible stars for strong family and Christian values. Very hard to do.
Very.
Uh-oh, that's Johann. That's the Hobart Brickie, man. You never forget where you come from. You know, once a Brickie, always a Brickie.
Yeah. And this is what I love. Who would have known that the lady I'm sitting with once was this precious little precocious girl? How old were you there, roughly?
I don't know, but I still have that dress. I just found it in the basement, yes.
And then this is my favorite picture, I think, of any guest we've ever had on. Look at that, bam! It just totally changed, just totally a transformation. And then I love this, trapeze.
Okay, so I always wanted to join the circus. I bought a unicycle as my backup plan if I didn't make the Olympics, which of course I did not.
Right.
So I never did join the circus, but at 50 years old, I took flying trapeze lessons in New York City. So
you did have a net, right?
They had a net. Okay. I always tell my husband, if you wake up one day and all my sequins are gone, you better make sure I didn't run away.
Right.
Join the circus.
I love it. And what is this, a logo or a silhouette of?
That's an example of where I am now, Kurt. A much more mature woman, where life is a much more delicate balance.
Wow, that's unbelievable symbolism there. I had no idea that that's what that was going to mean. And then on a much lighter note.
Hey, you know, you said this is like a legacy piece, so, I once had it and flaunted it, so there we go. Oh, no, cute though, listen to this. So my friends always called me Wonder Woman as a nickname, and then, of course, I did that one time for Halloween or something. Well, my husband, because he wore these black glasses, his friends always called him, would you believe?
What?
Superman.
Of course.
So this is before we met each other. So Wonder Woman meets Superman. Isn't that wonderful?
That is wonderful. I love that. And Carmen Miranda.
Carmen Miranda. That's from Adventures in Oz, because it's time to clean up my act. So we get our little spongy and clean up our face.
So a lot of people of a certain era, this was a huge show. It was one of the first real reality programs ever. Way before Survivor and those things where you go on the island and try to do things. And
Ninja Warrior, all that stuff.
Exactly. So what was that like very quickly? You know, how did you get the call? Did you pursue it? How did it come about into your life?
I'm going to just tell you, I was running the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation for the state of Indiana. One of my employees was a Gladiators fan. Every morning he'd be watching it. He'd be like, hey, boss, you got to do this show. You work out every day. You're an athlete without a cause. I'm like, okay. But I'm like, anyway, I had to go to Chicago to watch an event happen that we were going to then host in the Indianapolis chapter. And so Tracy, my employee, calls Hollywood, finds out that they're having Gladiator tryouts in the city of Chicago the same weekend I'm going. Of course, right? Yeah. And he's like, so guess what? I asked the guy I was dating at the gym, who was a firefighter, really buff, and said, hey, you want to go? And he's like, yeah, he knew all about it. He's all in. So we go. We stand in line. Okay, 30,000 people tried out. They chose 10 men and 10 women, okay? Now, the first thing that men had to do was 25 pull-ups in 30 seconds, literally humanly impossible unless you didn't do full range. Knocked 90% of the men out in the first event. We only had to do like 7. I did 12, and I'm like, what am I doing? Now I am showing off. I better conserve, right?
Right.
So anyway, long story short, I make it all the way through, and it was a wild time.
And there you are, holding up some of the...
Yes, they put me on their kind of best of...
Yeah. You were on the alumni episode, if I recall right. This is you competing.
Oh yeah, hang tough. Yeah. Gotta love that concept, right?
And this is you with Nitro.
There he is, Dan Nitro Clark. He had open heart surgery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. And then
wrote a book about it.
Here's your mother with...
Yeah, Todd Christensen, one of the co-hosts. He was a gem. Deceased now. My mom's deceased.
Isn't it amazing?
The pictures are so hard. They still have energy though, don't they?
They do.
You know?
They do.
Mike Adamley. the other co-host. They just lifted me up one
Well,
day
you
and
know-
put me on their shoulders.
You know what I always say is if you remember them, they're not gone, right?
That's
the
right.
energy. They're still alive. So here's the Body Perfect.
That was
I love
Milt
this.
Thompson. That was my first TV show, educational show that won a Telly Award.
And it started in the 90s, was
Yes, went all through the 90s
Yep.
for 10 years.
And you were really out in the community meeting
I was
with children.
doing some kids fitness back
I
then,
know,
and that's
I
kind
know.
of what segued me
I
into
love
what
this.
I did
This is
today.
like, you're almost like WWE here, like World Wrestling Federation stuff going on here.
Actually, I'm more like the Pied Piper, you know.
Yeah,
but
right.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. I
Yeah, there
got
we
you.
go. I'm in New York City. We took an entire semi full of
Wow.
videos after 9/11.
And here you
to
are.
encourage
There's
kids.
some stills from the show. Here's some guy. He doesn't look very happy,
Ron
but
Kittle.
you're working.
Ron
You're
Kittle,
working.
superstar White Sox
There you go.
player.
Nice.
Legs
More.
day.
Yep. And this looks like you're out in like maybe a
That's
school
really
campus.
cool. But that's actually the Indiana Pacers professional wheelchair team.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a heartbreaking day.
I can imagine. I can only imagine, actually. So this
There
is
it is,
late
Adventures
90s,
in Oz. Yep.
1999. This was all your idea, correct?
I took my love for exercise, which is my gift from Dad
Mm-hmm.
when he taught me how to stand on my head, and my love for The Wizard of Oz, which my mom used to read for me, and I put them together to create Ozercise for kids. So they go down the Yellow
Brilliant.
Brick Road to fun and fitness.
It's brilliant. I love this magazine cover.
Yes, Indianapolis was very good to me.
It's nice.
Louisville's been wonderful
Well,
too.
yes, yes.
Yeah, that's a little glimpse of my collection.
And here's a great friend who's no longer
You know,
with
that's
us.
Stephanie Dimitri, and she was like my little sister. Life gave me,
Mm-hmm.
and that was my wedding day.
Yeah, I have a couple earthly
And,
brothers. I don't have any biological brothers, and I know what you mean.
She's there to represent all the people that have poured into me and created me that aren't here physically anymore. There
Is
we
it-
are again, just on the circle, Monument Circle.
That's wild. So
Kids are taking their adventure kits home to go Ozercise.
nice. I love it. I love it. A lot of popularity with it.
Oh, there it is, the
Yeah,
penthouse.
so this just looks like a building
The
to the
penthouse
audience.
at
So
yes,
tell
the-
them what went on in there, not in what you think, but tell them.
Piccadilly,
Yeah.
wow, yeah. So I lived in the center, and my gym was on one side, and my film business was on the other. The most magical place I've ever lived my entire life.
That is amazing. Now this represents a very
wow.
interesting chapter in your life.
Yes.
I want to use this picture to kind of segue into, can you explain what happened that day, roughly what was going on? You know, we've talked about how you have to kind of pull your own reins in sometimes because you've got so much energy. And as I'm talking, I'm going to go through some other the pictures as well.
Yeah, so I was at Burn Boot Camp, and we did the last thing, which was 10 star jumps, where you just jump up, shoot arms and legs straight out like a star, and then come down into a ball at the ground and do it 10 times when you're dead tired, right?
Right.
And on the last one, I just rolled back to stretch, and when I rolled back and laid down, I just felt like, I would say 6-inch spikes go through my entire body, from my head all the way down my heart, my arms, all the way to the tips of my, and I just laid there, and I knew it was the most counter health experience I ever had, and I had no words for it. I knew I either had a stroke, a massive heart attack, something was just, like the whole body just short-circuited, you know. And I laid there.
Now, were you out in the heat? Excuse
No,
me.
we were inside.
Okay.
Of course, everybody's starting to stretch, and I just laid there, and I've got my daughter Brooke is in town, and she's with me, and of course, I'm trying to be superhero
Sure.
mom and slamma and everything, Grandma
Yeah.
Slamma to the
Right.
grandkids. I'm just being myself, right? And I don't know if I have to raise the hand of 911, right? Because this is like, anyway.
Not good.
Brushed it off, went home, took a shower, washed my hair, didn't feel good. And went by the hospital on the way. It was Christmas Eve, also my husband's birthday.
Oh, my.
So I'm like, I got to make
Amazing
dinner, we
how
got to
that
go to
works.
church. Tough day. Wound up having to have open heart surgery.
So, I mean, what did they find? You had to
Oh, I had a
repair.
collapsed mitral valve. I had a deformed chamber in my heart.
So your whole life you had this, obviously.
didn't know.
And you're,
And I'm glad I didn't.
yeah, because you might
My
not
story
have.
might have been a little boring.
A little
Kurt.
different. I don't know if it'd been boring, but it would have been a little different. You might not have had the guns,
Well, I would have probably had to sit on the couch.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that you'd have done that, but right. And then that probably leads us into the Christian Talk Radio program. Your story is glory.
Tom Hoyt said to me one day, I think you should do a Christian talk show. And I'm like, what?
What are you
I
talking
can't
about?
even say my name clearly. But only God, Kurt, I've been for 13 years praying to God, saying, God, I've lived 100 years already. I don't need another day.
Right.
Thank you, Jesus. I don't. I have not missed much. what do you want to do with my talent now? What do you want to do with my gifts? I've refined them. I've sharpened them. How can you use them? And when Tom Hoyt at the Christian Talk Show said, I think you should do a talk show, I'm like, but I have a name like Cheryl Silich. Only God would use my weakness for his strength and take my strength, right?
Absolutely.
And hide it in a radio show booth.
Of course.
Isn't it amazing?
It is.
But our God is amazing.
And as you get older and have more perspective, you start to see the connection of the dots. Wow. If you're honest with yourself, you might not like how they all connect, but you understand it more.
He promises that.
Yep. And there's some more stills here.
Yes.
And what is this third chair? I find this picture very intriguing.
So as I've spent the majority of my life coaching the physical body to excellence, physical fitness, let's say, God is calling me now to work with people who want to be spiritually fit, Kirt. Because we're really spiritual beings having a physical experience.
It's a very good way to put it.
It's the spiritual. That's all that really matters. And I want to walk alongside anyone who wants to be aware of their experience of God, because he wants to talk to you, he wants to encourage you, he wants to love you, he wants you to change your life to get on his plan. Like when I didn't marry that first man, God changed my plans. What a blessing. Sure didn't see it at the time. No. But I want to live in his will for my life. I want Cheryl to step aside and step down. And I want God to come through and shine bright.
It's funny you mentioned that. I won't go into details because the Moxie talks about you, but I've had handful of moments in my life like that where at the time it was devastating, but as you have that perspective of time and you see how the dots connect again, it all makes sense. It's like this beautiful tapestry and you understand it.
Right, and we'll talk about there's lots of spiritual tools that can help you heal and to help you heal the heart and to help you understand the things that aren't quite figure-outable, as I like to say.
Right. I'm going to hold these up. These are some stills.
Oh,
yeah. Put them together.
So that's when my family came in and we did a Christmas show, talked about growing up Silich, the Croatian way. Nat Maurer. Yeah. Wow, I was so blessed. Jason Crabb, right off the Grammy stage, homeboy, right?
Nice,
He's a Kentucky boy.
Now, who's this?
That's Kevin Mullins. Who did an amazing, he's a film producer, Christian film producer.
Sure. And now we're going to go into family, I think.
Oh, yeah. There's 3 of my rock star grandsons.
I love it. I love it. And here's your
Sincere,
father.
We got Sincere. We've got Tice. We've got Kaimani in that picture with my husband, and then Curtis.
Nice. And here you are with your father.
Oh, yeah.
This is early on.
That's early on. A couple of my brothers in there, too. Oh, and there's my sister poking out around the wagon wheel.
Definitely Catholic. Just a few siblings.
Oh, yeah. Look at us. There we are.
And I love this picture. It's one of my favorites you sent me.
I sent that picture because that encompasses my mom when she was like the perfect stage mom. She was always on my set. Like I heard your dad was always there, helping wrangle, helping manage the guests, and just filling in, jumping in, doing whatever. That was my mom. She sold Mary Kay later in life, and she'd always have that lipstick ready. And we went to Hollywood. We lived in a hotel, for goodness sakes, and somehow I'd come home and I swear there'd be like a gourmet meal, and I don't even think we had a refrigerator in our room, right? Although I did hear that Brad Pitt was delivering refrigerators before he was famous, so maybe I should have ordered one to see if he showed up.
Here's something else. Now, this is Aunt Marge.
This is Aunt Marge. God love her, 99 years old and young, I should say, 99 years of life experience. My goodness, she is.
And if you look closely at the picture, you have oxygen on, and I thought that was rather poetic.
Yes, we are both. I am recovering there. And that hug and her prayer, she dispatched her guardian angel, little Vera, to come be with me during my surgery. She believes she has a guardian angel. She sees the angel in her mind's eye when she closes her eyes and she says her prayer. She's a very devout Catholic, still goes to Mass on Sundays at 99, lives alone in the home she raised her family in.
Drives?
She just gave up her license when she turned
fair.
90,
99,
98.
That's fair.
Yeah, so it's exciting person. She was Mrs. Christmas. Yeah. She talk about me being bigger than life.
Sure.
Don't hold a candle to her.
Speaking bigger than life, look at the arms on this guy. This was a big impact. He was a very influential person. This your dad?
There's my papa. Yeah, they always showed up. That was a rap party for one of our seasons.
There, and I love this picture of him.
There he is, yes.
Eloquent man, I like that.
He loved to dance.
Yes,
Kirt.
And here you are.
There I am, standing on my head in the backyard.
And I remember it said in my research view that was kind of the moment where you thought, if I can do this, I can do a lot of other stuff.
I really I think I just prefer to be upside down.
Well, you know.
Or my friends at least tell you that I pretty much am anyways, but you know, I don't know, it's like the rush to the head, you know, I mean, there's something there. It's like when I'm standing on my head, I'm going to notice these killer boots you got on.
Right.
Right? If you're standing.
Sure.
Right? But when I'm standing, I'm going to look in your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
It really does flip your perspective.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And last but not least, speaking of perspective,
yes,
wedding day.
The man of my life.
There he is. Appreciate you sharing that. Now we're going to roll into, we've got a cacophony, or however you want to say it, plethora of items from your life. I always ask guests if they're willing to and able to bring an object or two that kind of captures their essence. So I'm going to start with this one, and then we're going to segue down to there, and we'll walk through the rest of them fairly quickly. Go for it.
Okay, so you want me to
start with this one?
Sure. Well, you know, I brought a unicycle because it represents an extreme challenge. Mm-hmm. It's not like riding a bicycle that once you learn it, you never forget. It's it's so incredibly difficult. It took me 3 summers to master it. I didn't master it, but I can ride it in a parade. I can ride it to be dangerous, right?
I don't know how you get off one without killing yourself.
And my grandsons made me take it out like recently to make sure I could still ride it after my open heart surgery, and I could. They were following me in their bicycle. It was a great day. But the thing is, it takes one thing to walk, another thing to ride a bicycle, but the unique level of balance and the core that is required, the core strength to balance on a unicycle is profound. And so I like to look at the unicycle. And I started out with 2 poles. So if you think you're sitting on a seat and you got 2 poles, I got a triangle here, like the triune God, right? The Trinity. I mean, a triangle is the strongest shape. And so I like that because it's a reminder of that we need balance in our life. And we have to fight for it sometimes.
Oh, without question. There's lots of forces that are always trying to get you out of balance.
You hit a pebble, you're down.
Yeah.
The dog barks and starts to go after your leg, you're down. The thing is to jump off of it like a cat and let the bike go down, and not you.
Right, exactly. Now we've got these big instruments here. If you can grab one and just kind of hold it up for the audience. What in the H is that?
Well, I like to say that my dad was a dentist, Kurt.
Yeah. I don't know where he got his license, but hey, you know.
Okay, so here's the thing. So what you're seeing here is a set of my dad's spud wrenches. Now, when you walk into my home, they're the first thing on the buffet that people see when they walk into my entrance because I'm an iron worker's daughter. Okay. My dad raised 6 kids by being a member of the union, number 395 out of Chicagoland area. And these are the wrenches that they put to connect the beams and then to tighten them. Wow. And these are what they carry on their tool belt. Okay. Now, my brother Mark Silich out of Chicago runs the finishing touch, and he took them and put this glorious concourse chrome because he chromes cars for the Pebble Beach Concourse show and does amazing concourse work. So he did these for my father. When my father died, my brother said, "You can have them." I couldn't believe it. I said, "I can have Dad's tools that you chromed?" Here's the thing I love the most. This is the most unique one. The ones I showed you are just smaller versions of the first one, the spud wrenches, but this is called the bullpin. Okay. So when you've got 2 booms swinging 2 pieces of iron together, the first thing that happens is somebody takes this and pops that in to lock the 2 at a 90-degree angle, okay? And then the next person comes along, pulls that out and sticks one of the wrenches in, okay, while they're getting the right tools and the rivets and whatever to make it a permanent thing. Okay. And I love that bullpin, Kurt, because it's really like our baptism. It's like when we finally meet Christ, and it's undeniable that we need him and we want him for the rest of our life. And nothing's going to separate us. But if you don't have people coming behind you to take maybe that emotional experience out for a minute and make sure you get something in there firm and solid that's riveted and tightened, and then people to pour into you and help you grow, it might not be a firm foundation. I love that. This is where I am now. I got a lot more tools now for my spiritual walk.
Absolutely. I appreciate you sharing that with us. I really do.
Thanks for asking that question.
Sure. So now I don't want to be remiss in all these other wonderful objects we've got here. So obviously this DVD, American Gladiators, the lunchbox.
My brother Tom Silich, who was an iron worker, sent me that. He just retired.
Yeah.
And that's kind of cute because before there were power bars, Kurt, I would bake potatoes and carry them in my purse during college and then eat it before I went to the gym because I wanted a clean carb before we even knew what clean carbs were. I know, so it's full of potatoes.
Now, you've got...
Oh, this is a cyclone wand. This is how we ride our tornado to Oz.
Okay.
In the Adventures in Oz video. And we do that after a tornado has gone through your room as a kid and it's a mess.
I see, right.
So there's a lot of fun things in there for the parents.
I love that. And what's the apple?
Well, the apple's from New York City. That was a gift when we went on tour.
Okay.
One of the Boys and Girls Club gave me that for being a teacher. And of course, New York City is the apple.
Of course. The
and
Lizard
I'm a
of
teacher.
Oz.
The Lizard of Oz, yes.
I love that.
And
Was that your idea?
Oh, yes.
Of course. Imagine that. And, you know, I think most people would know, but why the red slippers?
Well, just Oz.
And you played Dorothy in the...
Sure. I played Dorothy and Cheryl, the storyteller.
Right.
As
Gotcha.
well.
And there's the
And
book.
Ozma, the queen of fitness at the end. I transformed too.
I love it. And the book?
Well, I'm moving into writing books.
That's great.
Children's books that help kids find their purpose, help them learn how to pray.
It's beautiful.
Help them be encouraged and find hope in kind of a darkening world, Kurt.
Yep. This block.
I'm just so blessed.
Yeah.
I'm just so blessed.
Now
I don't ever want to forget it.
We're going to come back to the magic wand because I've got a question for that later. What's the thing on the very front?
Oh, you just have an awesome day.
Okay.
Be awesome, right?
All right. Cool.
It's a choice.
It is.
It's a
very much
choice.
The attitude is your altitude and all those things.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And boy, that's what they need to teach in schools.
Oh, yeah.
We don't usually get that lesson until somebody invests in us. And sometimes most people don't even know it. You got to choose it.
Yellow Brick Road,
Oh,
obviously.
that's your workout mat.
Oh, forgive me. Sorry.
For the video, yes. So
Great.
you stay. Remember, you have to stay 3 feet away from the TV, right?
Right. I love it. You've got a heart, obviously, there.
Yeah, just.
Sure, of course. And then what are
those
those?
are some chrome dumbbells with the little, with little crystals on the end. That was a wedding gift, and I thought that's kind of. I keep trying to retire and kind of trade those in for the real ones. But
tell Don it ain't happening.
It's never
Sorry.
happening, right? I know. That poor guy lives in the no snack zone, let me tell you. He's forced to be fit whether he wants to or not.
Oh, it's terrible. So can you define leadership in one word in the great English lexicon? As I always like to say, Cheryl, it could be more than one. It can be a phrase, personal or professional.
Me. I want to be a leader.
Yeah.
There are a lot of leaders in this world, Kurt. Superstars, rock stars, rap stars. They want the money. They want to be outrageous.
The fame.
They want fame. And they get it. Do they really want to lead you toward light? Do they really care about your soul? They really care about the nature of your heart, the complexity of your thoughts, and how they're serving you? Or are my thoughts behaving today? Because if they're not, we need to talk about them, right?
Right.
I want the role of being a role model. I always have. Take it very seriously. Remember, it's a responsibility like that robe I had as a kid.
That's just such an amazing answer. I have to say it's got to be the most unique answer out of 385 previous guests to that question. It really is. I mean, usually it's a word or phrase and, passion, some of the more obvious ones, follow through or whatever.
Could I tell you something cute?
Sure.
So that came to me last night because I looked at your questions about 7 o'clock after dinner, right? I'm like, because I just didn't have time, right? And I'm like, and that's the first thing that came to me. And then this morning I'm like, oh, you got to change that. I guess that narcissist might be there, but you know what I'm saying. But then I thought, well, no. I mean,
what's wrong with that?
I am a leader who leads, and I'm a leader who follows. But I'm very careful about who and what I follow. I'm both.
If someone asked you, what is your why? In other words, what motivates you? In those days like we kind of talked about, especially maybe with your heart, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Not every day, as I say, is Christmas morning, no matter how in my life experience.
But Santa does exist, right?
Right,
okay,
exactly.
Okay. All right, we're square on that
We're
one.
square,
Okay, don't
we're
take
square.
all my magic away. Okay.
But what motivates you? What is your why? The reason to go on?
Well, it's interesting as you started to ask that question. I naturally took a deep breath. It might be one of the first ones I've taken since I've gotten here.
Right.
I'm accused of not breathing much, but I have a heaviness on my chest. Feels like I'm going to always have a heart attack. The doctors say I won't. My arteries are like textbook. It's just,
it's great.
It's just the way it is because of it's defective. My heart's defective. I have heart disease, right? So it is what it is. But I'm alive.
Sure.
If I have air in my lungs, and I have a heart beating in my chest, which is as unique as our fingerprint. I just found out my heartbeat's different than yours, different than every crew member here, every camera member. I didn't know that.
No, I didn't either.
So if I have a heartbeat and I have a breath to take, I'm going to make a difference.
Well, you're making a difference.
I'm not going to waste it.
You've
Like
made
I
a
said, I don't
difference.
want to bury any of the talents, any of the graces God has given me. I want to come to heaven completely empty saying, God, I tried to give it all. In my own way.
If someone were to ask you what is the single most positive contribution you've made to humanity, and for you, I think this is a very intriguing question. What would it be? It could be more than one, personal or professional. May not have happened yet, in your opinion.
I just want to shine bright. When I shine bright, light attracts light. Darkness cannot exist with light. And when you shine bright, people gravitate towards you. Even darkness will gravitate towards you because it's curious about this light. So I just want to be someone who shines bright, and I want to let you borrow or steal or have my excess. If I run into you on the street and you're not having a good day, man, I'm going to try to find a moment to just hug you, a moment to just say nothing and listen, a moment to pray for you, a moment to maybe refer you to get some help. So I want to shine bright and let people borrow my light. Let people feed off of it. Let people see that it's a better way to live, you know? It's kind of like when your dad died or when my mom died or when my fiance broke my heart. You know, I was devastated. I couldn't get out of the fetal position. I went to daily mass every day. Daily mass saved my life. I could think of only one thing: make it to mass today. I did that 7 days a week for months. Why? Because I didn't have enough faith. And I needed to borrow somebody's faith. I needed to borrow the priest's faith. I needed to borrow my congregant's faith. So I want to be somebody that people can rely on to borrow my light, which comes from my faith, borrow my wisdom, whatever I have. I'm a giver, Kurt.
Well, you referenced something that struck a chord with me a moment ago. You know, you see it throughout history, political or world wars or what have you. You know, evil can go on for a really long time, but good always wins in the end. I've always taught my son that. I said, if you watch it in anything, always in the end, the good thing prevails. And it might take centuries, it could take 2 weeks, but it always prevails. And that has to be something beyond our understanding, why the evil took place and why the good always prevails.
That's interesting you go there, because that's, God is all good. I mean, all good things come from God.
So, you know, I've kind of asked this question earlier, but what keeps you motivated, you know, when you're running on empty? You know, you physically, I would say mentally, have pushed yourself to tremendous limits that most humans don't experience. I would say that's by choice, but you have done that. What keeps you motivated? You know, through the health scares, through the times when you compete and there's a lot at stake, a lot on the line.
Just the privilege of life. I mean, you know, a couple decades ago, I might not even be alive.
Right.
You know, they basically had to take your heart out, you know, cut you open, put you on a spreader, take your heart out, pull it out, fix it, put it back in. You know, one of my doctors looked at my report and he said, Cheryl, the only thing more, you know, disruptive to your body would have been a heart transplant, you know? So, you know, I just love life, Kurt. I want to grab as much as I can, you know, and I want to try to show people the value of the perseverance and the hard work, and not just dreaming, but real action plans that get your dreams to manifest. I never ran away to the circus, But I did take flying trapeze lessons for my 50th
Well,
birthday. I mean, you get your dreams somehow. I didn't make it to the Olympics, but I became a gladiator champion, right?
I was going to say, you
know?
kind of went to the circus. And I don't mean it in the way it sounds. I
You're
mean,
right. Hollywood is a circus.
yeah, but
You're
I mean,
exactly
you got
right.
to go away.
That's hilarious.
And you got to have an amazing adventure
I
there.
did.
Yeah.
I did.
So.
It's like you said, it doesn't always turn out exactly. It's not a straight line.
No. There's a few steps backwards and a few steps forwards at times
Just
in your
keep
life.
going.
Exactly.
You have no idea
No.
what blessing is right around the corner.
No.
I'm hoping it's an agent and a couple of published books.
I had a good
And
friend.
I'm trusting in God and
Yep.
believing, you know?
I had a good friend once having a rough time, hit a milestone birthday, hadn't achieved a lot in their life, called me up and was not doing well. And I said, you have to look at the totality of your life. And I started naming a lot of their perceived successes that I think they would have thought that. And I said, not just the season you're in. And that really calmed them down. And as I was saying it, I started to use that own advice to myself, because so many people, you know, and I think it's very easy to do. We get caught in a moment and then we loop ourselves and we don't look at everything we've done maybe to get to that moment. But anyway.
It's funny you say that. One day when I was recovering from surgery, I don't know, one day it's like, I guess the fog kind of lifted in a real different way.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked down and I had these stings on my side.
Yeah.
And it was me. It was like saddlebags.
Oh,
like,
no.
Yeah, because I'd been sitting for so long.
Right.
And because I had to sleep upright for months, right?
Sure.
And I didn't recover well from the surgery, unfortunately. But it was like, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm one of them, meaning my clients. Like, I had to now start taking my own advice.
Mm-hmm.
I would tell my client it and go, oh, Cheryl, yeah, and you're not doing it. And that was same thing with what
Right.
you experienced.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
an eye-opener. When you
It
start
is.
giving advice to someone that has worked for you, and all of a sudden you realize maybe you need it again too, because you've drifted. It's kind of how sin is. Sin makes you drift.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a whole nother show. Right. Absolutely. Could you describe in detail a particular scenario or incidents where you utilized your own philosophy on leadership?
Yes, this is not necessarily mine, but this
Sure.
is what I use, okay? And it starts with your hands.
Okay.
I believe that all you got to do is look at your hand every day,
Okay.
Kurt. Okay, now if you look at the center finger, that represents you. That's the strongest finger in the human hand.
Okay.
Now, if you look at these two fingers, they can do quite a bit more than these two can, right?
Right,
They're a little more
Dexterity.
tactile and stuff.
Yeah.
These are two people in your life that are stronger, smarter, more talented, whatever.
Right.
And they could be 20 years younger than you,
Okay.
more wise,
Yeah.
more spiritual, whatever you're looking for. Two people that are pouring into you, that are modeling for you, that you are trying to be more like. These two guys, these are the two that you're pouring into.
Okay.
Because when you pour out who you are, like we just spoke of, when you become a sponge and you start to ring it to people who want to grow and are kind of because somebody's always watching.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Whether it's a son, a grandson, a neighbor, somebody at church, another TV show host. People are always watching. So you're leading no matter what.
Right.
But we're also following. So have two incredible people that you're following, that you're learning from. Like I'm learning how to write children's books from Dr. Mira Reisberg right now. She's someone I'm following. I'm trying to be Grandma Slamma, because they won't call me Grandma at home. My poor grandsons want to say I look like I can slam somebody, so we're going to call you Slam instead of
I love
Grandma.
it.
I want to lead them. I want to draw them into the good things in life. And you know what? When you lead and you follow with purpose and intentionality, that makes the hand stronger. And you know, God gave us hands to work, right? To work the field, to raise them to Him.
Yeah.
Holy hands to heaven. The Bible says raise holy hands in praise and to pray. So I just look at my hands. And I lead my professional life, my personal life, and my spiritual life by always having two stronger and two weaker around me. Because you can't pour into too many people, and you can't have too many people pouring into you.
I agree with that. So what does Cheryl Ann Silich consider to be her biggest pet peeve? I love this question. I didn't ask it early on, and over the years I added it in because I think it's just a cool question.
Okay, so I don't waste a lot of energy on other people's little stuff.
Okay.
I just don't have the bandwidth to like let people drive me crazy. I got too much that I'm working on, you know, to pay much attention. But what I can say is, apathy is a hard one for me.
Mm.
And especially, I'll put a caveat on there, apathy combined with incredible God-given talent that is just sitting there.
Oh, yeah.
Because you don't have drive,
Yep,
determination,
I've seen a lot of that,
and desire.
unfortunately. Yeah.
You know, like I won the DDD award in high school many times for drive, determination, and desire. Imagine that, right?
Right.
But it's like, you know, and I'm average. I am so average, Kurt. I am below average. I can't even say my name. Okay?
Yeah, but I mean, but you aren't average because your standards are so high.
That's what I'm saying. I have worked, and I have put myself into zones, and I have made friends, beautiful friends that have coached me. You know, it's like that first question. We're in Kentucky. You know, we can talk about the Derby and about Churchill. You know, that jockey uses a rider's crop to kind of hit the behind. Why? Because he's spurring him on. He's encouraging him. And so many people have done that for me. So many people have gotten on my back and encouraged me along. And man, I just want to, you know, I'm blessed so many ways. I want to just give now, you know, just give back. And
yeah, this next question kind of dovetails back into one we asked earlier, but if someone were to ask you, what does Cheryl and Silich stand for, what would you tell them? Not how they may perceive you, which I talked about earlier, because, you know, people tend to stereotype when someone's very visible and very accessible, I guess you'd say.
Well, one is what they would say and I would say. So we will agree on this one, and that is deeply disciplined.
Okay.
I mean, I've had many friends tell me that, you know, you're the most disciplined person I know, and I'm the most disciplined person I know. So I agree. We agree there, right?
Yeah.
So extremely disciplined. Very faithful. I'm a Christian, and I'm proud of it. And God is using me and rising me up to be a soldier for Him, a warrior for Him, instead of one in Hollywood. And, you know, I hope that you might meet me and shake my hands and meet my biceps first, or back in the 80s, you met my big hair before my biceps, right? But I hope that everyone who meets me meets my big heart.
That's great. So do you think there's a difference today, Cheryl, in female bodybuilders or the business or industry than it was when you first got into it? What is kind of your take? And I don't know if you're involved in it as day to day as you once were in the early years of your profession and career. I'm just curious. I'm sure you watch it and observe it.
You know, I've never really been in the bodybuilding scene. I just trained like one and looked like one most of my life, you know? Again, thank you, God, for that extra genetic boost you gave me.
Yeah.
But, you know, the great thing is with all these boutique fitness places and with the empowerment of women being fit now being vogue and cool and acceptable, and it's good for everybody, young, old, you know, in a wheelchair, not in a wheelchair. I mean, everyone can benefit from fitness. I'm just glad it's just for everyone now. You know, it's not a narrow lane.
That's true. And there's a lot of clubs everywhere. You know, it used to not be anywhere.
Right.
You'd be lucky if you had one in a big city or two.
A Gold's Gym or a World's Gym and a YMCA, that's it.
Now, you've been pretty much driving your bus most of your life, in my opinion, you know, running your own lanes and driving the way you want to go, metaphorically and literally. But if you were to take 2 weeks right today, you know, 14 calendar days, 10 business days, you know, money's no issue, you basically no responsibility, you know, you free up 2 weeks on the calendar. Where do you go? What do you do? Who do you take with you? You know, again, technology kind of gets put on the back burner because that's an easy thing to get distracted from on vacation.
Sky's the limit.
Yeah, I said money's no object, whatever. Because I want an honest, authentic answer, not
2 weeks.
Yeah, that's hard, isn't it? 2 weeks for someone like you. Oh,
I
no,
I know where I'm going.
Where?
I'm going to heaven. I'm going to have dinner with my daddy,
Wow.
my mommy.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I'm going to go see my sister. I'm
Is
going
that
to
a
go see
round
my
trip, or how does that work?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't care. I don't care. Take me, Jesus. You know, I don't care. I mean, if I can go anywhere,
answer. Wow.
if I can go anywhere,
Yeah.
I want to see the people who are already there waiting for me.
There you go.
I miss them. I love them.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful
we'll
for
see
their
them again.
lessons.
We'll see him again. If you alone could have dinner with anyone living or deceased, who would it be and why? It could be more than one. It can be personal, professional. It can be a buffet, liquor, no liquor. You know, it can be sit-down dinner. It's whatever you can make the dinner.
You know, what's coming to mind is The first time I had dinner with what would become my future in-laws,
Okay.
Don's parents, we were at Shapiro's Delicatessen downtown Indianapolis, very famous place, and he went up to go get some more food.
Okay.
And as he walked away, I followed him with my eyes very deliberately. And his mom grabbed my hand
Uh-oh.
and looked at me and said, "You're in love with my son."
Oh, wow.
And it was, my mom's already deceased. So it kind of like startled me, you know. I don't even know if we'd even used that word yet between us, right? And I said, "I am?" She goes, "Yeah." She goes, "You know how I know?" I said, "How?" She said, "Because you studied him as you walked away." And we tend to study the things we love. So the person I would want to meet, I have been studying the character of God. And when you can't know God, you can't rely on God, you can't talk to God and have a conversation, especially a two-way conversation, if you don't know him. And when you study his character, and you study and you know that he is three gods in one, three persons, a Father, Son, and a Holy Spirit, I'm going to meet the Father. He's my capital F Father, right? And I love Jesus. I mean, I already got that. I want to meet the Holy Spirit. You know why? Because he's our helper. He's our helper. He's helped me so much. When I can't go to my best friend, Rika, or I can't go to my husband or my mom or my dad anymore, your world gets smaller the bigger you get. And all of a sudden you're going, where do I go? Why do we go to God last? God said, "I will send you the helper. It's better if I go, or you won't get the helper." I want to meet the Holy Spirit because he's a person equal in the triune Godhead. Wouldn't that be him? I don't know what it would look like, but if I thought, who's the most amazing?
Well, I mean,
he's already here. He's already with me. He
sure.
shows up all the time.
Oh, I totally agree.
Having dinner, I don't know.
Well, you'd order whatever you want if you're in heaven. I mean, and you don't gain weight, right?
That's right. That's right. I can take that cheesecake, and it doesn't go right to my thigh.
There you go. Know? I love it. I'm really curious your answer to one of the final questions here. If you could have written a letter to the younger Cheryl, a note to self, so to speak, what would you have told her, knowing what you know now?
So since my dad was with me so much longer, I have fresher memories of him. And so I kind of hear this letter being written to me in his voice.
Okay. That's fair.
And he was one of those people who called me Cher. I always thought Cher was cool, by the way.
Well, yeah.
Like the real Cher, you know what I mean? Right. Not the fake one over here. But so here's what the letter says. "Hey, Cher, I love you." We don't love ourselves enough.
Yeah.
I'm really hard on myself sometimes. The world's hard on us. The world picks us apart. I mean, I was nervous about having a makeup artist. Like it's like, you know, you get used to it, but you don't. It's
right.
it's just, you know, it's like we do care a lot about the physical, and there's nothing wrong with it.
No,
I mean, I've been in fitness.
Right,
I
sure.
want to feel good. Why?
Right.
Because if I feel good, I'm going to have a better interaction with you. I'm going to have more energy
I
to
firmly
do
believe
more
that.
for you.
You're preaching to
because
the choir, but a lot
like
of people
who I
don't
am.
feel that way. They don't think that way.
You got to like who you are.
Yeah.
Most people who don't like me, it's because my energy makes them, that amplifies that in themselves. This is what I've learned in my years, is that it amplifies what they don't like about themselves. And a lot of times it's a lack of confidence. I've never been accused of that.
No.
Although I can tell you, I shake it in my boots many a times in my career.
Sure.
So, you know what I mean? But I would just hear this little letter from my dad. "Hey, Cher, I love you." Because I think we need to learn to love each other more.
Yeah.
With acceptance, without judgment. We need to love ourselves. And we need to let God love us. Come on.
Yeah, my dad, God rest his soul, he used to say when I'd having a fork in the road or a tough decision or something wasn't going right personally, professionally, and he would always say, "Curdy," that's what he called me.
Curdy, oh, I
yeah,
like it.
why with Kurt? And he would say, you know, with God all things are possible. And that's what, in his way of saying is, if you believe it can happen, is kind of how I interpret it. And that would always give me the courage or confidence or strength to push through something that was either of my own making or something put in my way that was not of my making, but I had to deal with it.
Well, you know, Kurt, I have spent a lot of my life, I know you'll find this hard to believe, muscling my way through life, okay?
Yes.
Like, I
How
mean,
convenient.
I even had a gymnastics coach say, Cheryl, just relax as you're doing the kit between the bars. You're trying to muscle it again. And I'm like, you know, I'm just born with too much grit, okay?
Right, right.
But as I've learned to surrender, I have had God in my life my whole life, ever since, oh my gosh, my whole life. We had a moment on the playground in Catholic grade school, changed my life. He's now manifesting what he promised. Another story, another day.
Okay.
But I've had God in the sidecar. And I'd be like, God, isn't this great? Aren't we doing good here? Like, where are we going today? Oh, we're going to go to Kirt Jacobs' show. We're going to go talk Moxie, man. You know? And he'd be like, Cheryl, did you forget that, like, I'm the great I am over here?
Yeah.
Like, you really do have to be careful. Mm-hmm. Because I had him with me, but he wasn't driving. Mm. He's in the sidecar. Mm-hmm. He's like, you know, he's the great I am. I'm the little bitty teeny I am. Because I am made in his image. But we have to remember that. Mm-hmm. We have to remember that. And I have to remember that. Mm-hmm. Because we want to take control. We want to grit our way through.
Sure.
We want to do it in our strength. And when you just surrender and make room for God and make space for him, like if you work with a spiritual director, like what I work with people, the peace, the breathing. I know you find it hard to believe that I can be still, but I love being still now.
Okay.
It's when God does his most amazing work in me.
Well, the heart incident had a big impact on that, I would think.
It really did.
I'm sure it did. It's a great moment to segue into our signature question. We've asked all 385 guests before you. Okay. Nobody gets out of the hot seat.
No pressure down.
No,
yeah,
none
right?
at all. And I love this question because, you know, that's the main reason why I do the program is, you know, to have people tell their own narrative, their words, you know, not out of context, their image, their voice. You know, God forbid, Cheryl, you walk out of here today, you had a close scare a few years back with your heart, you know, it all ended. You know, it's your last day on earth. How do you want to be remembered by family, friends, fans that have watched your shows, you know, Gladiator, what have you, children that you've helped with obesity? I could go on, and there's still a lot more chapters left. I firmly believe that. But how would you want to be remembered?
I think I'll take that back to the objects of essence, as you call them. Am I correct? Mm-hmm. You know, living a balanced life used to just mean like spiritual, physical, mental, financial, like all equal boxes and blah, blah, blah. Kind of generic, right? Mm-hmm. But what I've learned is you got to have the right tools in life. Like when I was a gladiator, yes. Kirt, we had this.
Oh,
this
Jesus.
is like a pugil stick.
Don't
and,
hit me.
You know, I won't clean your ears out with it. It looks like a giant Q-tip, doesn't
don't
it?
Hit me.
But, you know, that was the tool you needed to wallop somebody over the head to knock them off balance to win, to get them off that pedestal. You hit them in the ears because that's where your balance is. Boom, you're down. And then I hit you here, you lose your balance. Boom, right in the stomach, but you're gone. It's easy to get knock off balance. Mm-hmm. But when you add the spiritual tools to your life, you have a different core. You have a different balance point. You have a different balance point to crawl, then to walk, then to run, then to ride a unicycle, and so on. So I would like for people to remember me as somebody who helped them get in touch with their spiritual life, which is really what I do anyway, indirectly as a coach all these years. People will tell you I've been doing this for years. It's just because I do everything from the Spirit. Does that make sense? I connect with you through the Holy Spirit. And that's how you can have connections just like that. So what I want to be known for in hopefully my greatest chapter is that I've been able to expand my toolkit. Take these tools stand for hard work, iron worker of, you know, decades in the Union. But because I'm a Catholic who married a Pentecostal, and there's a lot of spiritual gifts and tools in between those two denominations, now these tools are like, I have a bigger, wider toolkit, and they're from my Heavenly Father this time. So I want to be somebody who takes out any spiritual tool, gift, wisdom that I can offer you to live your best spiritual life in this human existence.
Well, I think you're doing exactly that, and everything we've discussed over the last hour or so only is a testament to that. And I'm so thankful after 4.5 years, a heart issue, a global pandemic, you almost moving away, we've gotten you in one spot.
Right,
and
right.
I want to thank you so much. I'm going to shake your hand because I know I won't win any arm wrestling. But we'll do that later. I really am thankful you came on Moxie.
Oh,
sure.
I'm so grateful too because, as you know, we're living in Florida now.
Yes.
So we are in Indian River County,
Yeah.
and God has a whole new chapter.
That's
and
right.
I'm looking forward to getting back on Christian
That's right.
radio and doing whatever He wants me to do.
Sure.
And hopefully working with the next person that wants to
That's great.
explore their relationship with Him.
If today's discussion has inspired you, we would love to hear from you. And if you know someone who has Moxie and a story worth sharing, let's talk. Simply visit our website, MoxieTalk.com, or type MoxieTalk with Kirt Jacobs on all your social media platforms. Until next time, I'm Kirt Jacobs. Thanks for watching.